All right, let's go on to, I guess, Tichondrius. I mean, at this point, like when you defeat Spellblade Oriole, you have so many different ways you can go. We can move on to Tichondrius, which is also a fun boss that I did. It's really cool. I like Tichondrius. Tichondrius is a lot of fun. Mostly because, I mean, he's Jaina's half-brother, right? Because he's a Dreadlord. But yeah, let's go over Tichondrius. Oops, not this one. Here we go, Tichondrius. Load it up. All right. And Ray, say that question for the end. I'm totally happy to answer that afterwards. All right, so Tichondrius. Tichondrius is a Dreadlord, one of the fun bosses that, you know, you've seen in the story for a while. Has pretty typical Dreadlord-style abilities with carrying plague and carrying swarms and spawning shit, you know, and bats, of course, because there's always bats when these things fly away. So, let's start off with Tichondrius. So, Carrion Plague and Seeker Swarm are I would say, the most important abilities of this encounter. Basically, it's a multiple phase encounter that gets harder as it progresses. The more DPS you have, great, because it is a timed-based encounter, so you're able to actually skip phases later on. The first phase is Tichondrius. So here we have different markers set up for where we want him tanked. Carrion Plague is a debuff that spawns on random players. Healers, ranged, and sometimes melee. So we'll see who it targets here in a second. Carrion Plague about to happen. And what all it does is it's a dot right there. So Roshi and Brandhista right now, have Carrion Plague. So they need to run away from the raid. But they need to move to a spot that is going to be safe. Because, like Spellblade Oriole, right, the fire elementals that charged, Seeker Swarm interacts with Carrion Plague. And you want to have as few people as possible with Carrion Plague. So watch what happens. So there's Brandhista and Roshi, those good team players that they are. They're running away. Now, from Tichondrius to Roshi and Brandhista, there will be a straight line. That is what Seeker Swarm is going to hit. So they're spread out. Now, as a melee, you don't want to be in the line of this because you will then get Carrion Plague yourself. And if you have Carrion Plague, well, then you'll be targeted by Seeker Swarm. So Seeker Swarm is about to happen. It'll only target those two players. There. So again, the whole arrows things, that's gone, right? The weak auras that showed arrows and where to move, that's all gone. You'll no longer have that. We had it for testing because we just had it for testing at that point. So you see those two people are going to get targeted. Nobody else should have got hit, and nobody else did. Now we have Carrion Plague happening again. Now it targeted Lurchi, Natoro, and Rolo. So 3 people this time. Okay, well, great. So guess what? Rolo is going to join the 2 healers. Natoro is going to join the healers. And Lurchi will be on the opposite side. So there's various strats of this boss. But you see the arrows, right? They're at the top side of the screen. That's where the Seeker Swarm is going. You can't be in that line. Because we have a certain designated safe zone for our melee, no melee should ever get hit by a swarm either, right? As long as you're positioned intelligently. So that's where the brunt of phase 1, right? It's a debuff. You want to minimize the amount of debuffs because it gets a pain in the ass to heal, right? Like, it's super, super annoying. The other thing, and we're going to go back here a couple seconds, is the phase 1. I guess we can go Echoes. Echoes is the other ability in this phase. What it does, it spawns 4 big pillars in the room. Think of them as pillars like... what's that Hellfire Citadel boss? The one with pillars, the Fell Lord Zakun, or the boss in Archway. Similar kind of pillars. Now, when he does Echoes of the Void, when he stops casting it, he channels it there, you take damage every half second. What you need to do is hide behind the pillars, right, to not take damage. And so you see me running over to a pillar. There are 4 pillars in the room. They spawn generally in the same area, not always the same spots, but just hide behind them. You can use immunities to not take damage, whatever. And you go back to your spots. So the plague people are still over there, and the non-plagued people are over here, away from them. Now, the other, and I guess second most important ability that Tichondrius has is he spawns little bloods, right? Yeah, those are random Argus. Good question, Devious. He spawns little bloods, and they need to be AoE'd ASAP. Now, Tichondrius, because he's a Dreadlord, he has a Vampiric aura, right? You know, whenever you played old the Ancients, Warcraft 3 Ancients thing, Vampiric Aura was amazing. So anything that is near him gets Vampiric Aura. So these Bloods, whenever they hit the tank, and now there'll be 4 or 5 Bloods spawning, they will fixate the other tank or whichever tank it is, and every time they hit him, they're pretty much going to heal to full. So you can't kill them. There's 2 ways to tackle them. Either you move the boss away, because it's easier to move the boss away than it is to move, you know, all the ads away, or you do a stun rotation. And with a strong stun rotation, the 9 seconds, they should be able to die. They cannot, under any circumstances, hit that tank. So whichever strat you want to employ, totally up to you. So here we had the Blood spawn. We actually used a stun rotation. You see them healing up to full, all while you're dealing with Seeker Swarms, right? All those things too. And then you need to die pretty quickly. There's Carrion Plague on me. I'm going to join my friends in this little line. So here, we pulled the boss away. They lost their Vampiric Aura, and then the taint is gone. Or sorry, then we killed the Bloods. And now Seeker Swarm happens again, so more and more players will get hit by Seeker Swarm. You still see, though, a bunch of players, Eyelid, Firemancer, Braindead, Elandril, Valk, Altaris, they don't have the debuff. At this point, after you go through 2 Echoes of the Void phases, so now we're going to go hide again. And, I mean, the very simple benchmark on this fight is the Bloods need to be dead before Echoes of the Void, in general. Kill them before the Echoes. So here we're hiding again. Use your cooldowns. I can't remember if there might have been line of sight issues on these pillars. And now Phase 2 happens. Phase 2 is pretty cool. He turns into, you know, little bats and stuff. And now, for those of you who remember the Black Hole, the last boss, can't remember his name, but he does the big beam in the middle of the room. Same exact thing. Big green beam, don't stand in it. If you stand in there, you die. Let's see if anybody dies. Nope, nobody died. The other thing that's going to happen is these bats will spawn. You need to there's no boss to kill, so you have to kill the bats as soon as you can. AoE them down, whatever you need to do. They will drop an orb. This orb gives you a DPS and healing buff as well as a mana restore, which is great because you get to burn through all your mana. Once you go into this phase, get all your mana back, which is why Beacon of Virtue might be usable here, but we'll see. But yeah, you get to burn through all your mana, get everything back. Ideally, prioritize getting your DPS this buff first, right? So you can see their Ganner, Panzer, Lurch, you have the buff. I'm not going after buff right now because I'm a healer. So I'm letting my DPS get it first, so they will be able to kill more of these bats. And you see the purple orbs there? They're like just spheres, right? Balls. I don't think I got one. There, I got one at the end there, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I got one at the end. Yeah. And now for 30 seconds coming out of this phase, you have a huge DPS increase, healing increase, and mana restore. So my mana is going to go up, start shooting up. You can see my mana start shooting up there. Everyone's doing a lot more damage, and you're able to kill these Bloods much more effectively. And when you get out of this phase, your Carrion Plague, it all goes away. So it's reset back to 0. That's phase 1 and phase 2. And then the next thing that happens, so every time you go back to phase 1, is you'll get more ads spawning. So in addition to Bloods, which we've been dealing with, we flip them around. So we flip the boss to the opposite side now, because ads spawn near the doorways. So these Fellsworn Spell Guards, they are not fun. Basically, they're going to melee people, and when they occasionally give you a debuff, you will drop off an Arcane Puddle. It's really important not to drop off Arcane Puddles on your raid or where you're going to be standing for Echoes of the Void, the big pillar thing, right? So you don't want to be standing, dropping them near pillars. So we'll see what happens here. We move the boss away because of Vampiric Aura, right? Vampiric Aura affects these the Nightborn things as well. There's Seeker Swarm, hit some people. Wish I had a better vantage point. There, you see those purple swirls on the left side there? People had the debuff. That's where they dropped it off. That was a good spot for them to drop it off, by the way. So somewhere off to the side there. If somebody had dropped it here, well, then we couldn't hide behind the pillar, and we'd be screwed. So be intelligent where you drop off these puddles. So here we're hiding. Echoes of the Void. And then back to our spots. Rinse, repeating. Alright, again, Seeker Swarm. So we're all standing in a line here, so it doesn't clip other people. All right, we don't want it to apply to other people. It makes it really easy to dodge. We're probably going to adjust this shot a little bit, though. Oh, Psycho died. Yeah, at this point, we had some difficulties on this one, but we did have, like, 3 tanks on it anyway. So again, we decided to pull the boss away because we found that really easy for Vampiric Aura, as well as dealing with the Nightblade, or the Nightborn guys. Echoes of the Void number 2. So again, you'll always deal with 2 Echoes of the Void during this phase, and then back to a phase 2 with the bats. Okay, and then back to this phase. You still have the debuff, right? It will start expiring at this point, right? 14 seconds on mine right now. And you can see the purple buffs on people's raid frames. That is the actual buff that they're going to be getting. So make sure everybody in your raid has this buff. You want to kill all these bats, murder them. Let the DPS get it first, so they're able to kill these bats quickly. Oops. Kill, kill, kill. Again, those purple orbs. There, I've got one. I don't think anybody... Yeah, everybody got an orb at that point, which is great. So same thing, Carrion Plague. We do the same kind of position. Well, when you come out of this phase now, you get an additional add. You'll start with the Nightborn, like the Bloods again. The Nightborn Watchers, right? The whatever. So the Nightborn guys, and then Sightless Watchers. Sightless Watchers are a big pain in the ass. And they complicate this fight even more. So watch what happens when they spawn. So he should be spawning in the middle section. So there you can see them teleporting in. And through the middle sort of alcove, a Sightless Watcher spawns. This Sightless Watcher, tough to be moved, right? He's going to be casting a lot. He is the priority. You want to prioritize this guy as much as you can. Because he casts a debuff on your healers. That drains their mana and does damage. So unless you want your healers to run out of mana, you need to kill this guy ASAP. If you have a debuff, so as a healer with a debuff, you run out because when you dispel it, it damages people around you. It's a little explosion, similar to the Helya one, right? When you're doing Helya on Maw of Souls, little green thing. I mean, it does AoE explosion, but you drop off a little debuff. So don't be near anybody when you dispel that debuff. Let's see, once he starts, there's Burning Soul. So Burning Soul is on me at this point. It's on me. I need to run out. I dispel myself, and I run back in. Right? This is where the fight gets really, really tricky, because you're dealing with all these things, and the Bloods, and everything else. The Sightless Watchers, they also get the Vampiric Aura, so again, you want to murder them. This is a good place to use Hero as well, because you need them down really, really quickly. And at this point, we have another Sightless Watcher spawning, and things are starting to fall apart, because we've got a Sworn Spellguard there, hitting people getting debuffed. It's a giant massacre at this point. So at this point, you may just want to burn the boss. Right? I mean, tanks are going to get hit here, you're going to be dealing with a lot of shit. Again, it gets really complicated in that last phase. So... and we killed Tichondrius. I mean, this was just normal. Now, the other ability that is not mentioned, not in this video, is called Brand of Argus. Brand of Argus is not a fun ability. So it starts on Heroic and then on Mythic as well. And I don't know if I have any videos here. I know Fat Boss has a video if you guys want to watch their video. But basically, it spawns on a person, and it does more and more damage. When you bring people to that person, they explode, right? And the closer you are to that explosion, the more damage you take. So ideally, let's give you guys a little bit of a diagram, because I like diagrams or markers. So let's say, Tichondrius is right here by the stairs, right? And I have Brand of Argus. So if I have Brand of Argus, I'm running around here, and my friends need to run over to me, or I guess run into a clump, and then the Brand of Argus explodes. Where are you, Brand of Argus? Wrong fight. Brand of Argus here. So you'll do a lot of damage to players nearby, but it also knocks you back and things like that. So you do want it to expire. You don't want to have these marks of Argus on people forever, because at some point you're going to have to stack. Well, when do you stack? Well, you stack in when you're hiding during the Echoes of the Void, right? You're all stacked in. If everybody were to run together and with these Brands of Argus, then you're going to wipe the raid, because they're all going to be exploding at the same time. So the goal is to control the explosions of the Brand of Argus by having people run into you, and then you get knocked back, and then it's fine. But don't do it in melee. So this typically targets ranged and healers. It's a ranged and healer style ability. And yeah, just be really far out. The boss is over here by blue. Then Brand's going to dropping over here by purple, and all my friends are going to run over to me, right here, and then we explode, not near the melee, preventing how much damage they do, or they take. Again, it's more and more fights, it's more and more complicated fights, the more abilities. I don't think I have a heroic one to show you guys here. But yeah, it gets more complicated when you have Seeker Swarms and Brand of Argus and everything else. And then on Mythic, when you have that Brand of Argus, you actually drop green puddles on the ground, so you'll have less room to contend with through the duration of the fight. So positioning is even more important. So what questions do people have here? I'm guessing it would change the positioning around orange, since right now it could be both go off at the same time. What was your question, Devious? Why are you in a line not stacking when you have the storm? Can you get it twice? I believe when we had testing, we were able to get second applications of it, which is why we had the initial strat just stack in a line. But I know the guides here may have something different, right? So there is a couple guides out there. There's the heroic guide that's linked for you guys here, and there's the minimalist guide that people have been sharing as well. Feel free to share those with your guilds. You know, they have very similar strats. Where's Tichondrius on these guys? Croesus, Hybotanus, Tichondrius. Yeah, and that's it. Like they have different strat as well for plague peoples. But again, you try to not stack these debuffs, right? Like right here, we're in a line, right? So the debuff does not overlap. Because I recall it did overlap, or we did get second stacks or something, which is why we did that strat and not just everybody stacked in on one clump, right? Everybody was spread out along the line there. Yeah, Brands always went out in pairs. So Brand of Argus, 2 people would have it. Then you'd have, you know, 4 people, and then 4 people run toward that person, and then blow it up. What other questions do people have here? Both go at the same time. Not sure what you asked. Okay, let me know if there's any questions on Tichondrius. Again, these fights can be pretty complicated. For those of you that haven't done testing, they're quite complicated. It'll take a little bit of learning for players, because I think these fights are way more complicated than almost anything you've done in Emerald Nightmare. They're way more complicated. Okay, I guess no questions. Okay, we're going to be moving on to the next boss. Alright, next boss. What have I not done yet? What time is it anyway? Oh, it's only been 2 hours? We're actually making a really good time. Okay.